You just sit there, waiting for enlightenment or what? You just sit there and waiting for enlightenment or what? You think, enlightenment is just coming, just by itself? It's just sitting on one's backbones, having no mindfulness at all, doing what one wants to do? That's not the way of practice. The way of practice is the way of Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Sila, the 5 precepts. Samadhi, the ability to concentrate on one point. To reach Samadhi, to reach Upachara Samadhi or Appana Samadhi. And Panya is the way of investigation, the way of developing wisdom. It's not the way of developing knowledge. If it would be the way of developing knowledge, we wouldn't be necessary to sit on our backbones and go through a lot of pain or painful feelings. We just need to read some books, and just get enlightened. That's all. But because it doesn't work this way, we have to find some means. Now, when you look at the teachings of Tanaja Mahabodhi, at least to the monks, there are 3 topics. 2 topics he mostly stresses. And you just come, huh? He stresses the dogs that are within our heart. The dogs that are lazy, the dogs that love to eat and sleep. That's all what they know to do. Eating and sleeping and playing around. In other words, kilesas. This is one of the big topics. The other topic is asubha. When I came here, I trained myself in the West for 6 years before I came here. When I came here, I had to reconsider or relearn the path of practice, because there were 2 things I did not understand. The first thing was the principle of kilesas, and the second thing was the principle of asubha. Asubha is not taught in the West. It is mentioned, but it's not considered to be important. Most probably because in the suttas there are only a few hints at the practice of asubha, but hardly anything how one does asubha. And most of it is, when you look at the suttas, how you gain enlightenment. You go to the first jhana, go to the second jhana, go to the third jhana, go to the fourth jhana, then you reflect about your previous lives, and then you got enlightened. And that's what, of course, the people in the West want to believe. It's the easy way out. First jhana, second jhana, they're all very pleasant states of abiding. And then you just reflect about your birth, about your previous lives, and then you get enlightened. At least that is how it's understood, or that's how it is said in the suttas, or in quite a lot of suttas, especially in the middle length saying. So people in the West believe this is the way. But there's the problem of getting into these jhanas. Hardly anybody can go into these jhanas. So then in the West say, these jhanas or samadhi, this is not for us. We just go the way of wisdom. We just go the way of wisdom, and then they confuse wisdom with knowledge. You just reflect about this and you reflect about that, and they don't even understand that this kind of reflection is nothing else than sanya and sankhara. It has nothing to do with the wisdom, the understanding that takes place in the citta, the wisdom that is developed in the citta by observing the things that are, or the things as they are. So it is not unknown. Please don't, when I give a talk, just don't fool around with things. Just listen, just open your eyes, tune in your receivers, your ears as receivers, and just listen until I finish. If you start drinking this or doing this or that, that will disturb the talk, it's just not helpful for you. Because it throws me out of my subject. It's not the things I memorize, it's not even the things I know, but I'm going to talk about it. If I'm not concentrated on what I'm doing and some of the things that you are going to play around with, are just disturbing my concentration. So asubha is known in the West. It is mentioned in the suttas, but it's not put any importance on. Now, what is the reason? That the Lord Buddha seemed to have taught asubhas. One of the famous suttas is where he taught an assembly of 500 bhikkhus about the loathsomeness of this body, and then the next morning the monastery was very quiet and there were hardly any monks left. So he asked the Venerable Ananda, where have all the monks gone? And the Venerable Ananda told the Lord Buddha that because of this talk of asubha, because of this talk of loathsomeness of the body, all these monks got so dissatisfied with the body that they all killed themselves. This is one occurrence of asubha. There are a few others in the suttas mentioned. So the way of Ajahn Mun, the teacher of Tanacha Mahabua, is also teaching asubha. Asubha in the full, or to the fullest. And Tanacha Mahabua, as I said when I came here, I had to learn two subjects that were completely new to me, completely new to my practice. One was kilesas and the other was asubha. What is asubha? Asubha just means not only loathsomeness or disgustingness of the body, but it means all sorts of discomfortable feelings or discomfortable views or discomfortable things within the body. That means asubha is just the opposite of subha. That means pleasant, beautiful view. So, asubha means unpleasant views, not beautiful views. Disgusting views, loathsomeness. And why is it so important? Why is the investigation? Normally it is behind the investigation of the body. Investigation of the body and asubha can be thought of as a synonym. In order to get the understanding of asubha, one starts investigating the body. And the monk, the moment he gets ordained, he gets actually the 5 objects for asubha contemplation. That is the hair of the head, the hair of the body, the nails, the skin, the teeth. These objects are to be contemplated, as is said by the Upachaya, the father monk of a newly ordained bhikkhu. These objects are to be contemplated, understood in its true nature, and that has to be done for a long time until everybody realizes the true nature of the hair of the head, or the hair of the body, or the skin, or the nails, or the teeth. And that it's not the only 5 objects one investigates. There are 32 objects of contemplation. They are also mentioned in the suttas. These are the internal organs or internal parts of this body. So, investigation of body. Asubha practice. Why is it so important? It is important because all of our life we have run after the beautiful things, after the beautiful sensations, the beautiful views, the beautiful feelings, after the pleasant feelings, after the pleasant sights, after the pleasant sensations. Beautiful and not beautiful. Supha and asubha are just opposites. Just like hell and heaven are just completely opposites. And these kind of opposites obstruct our view of Nibbana. So we have to come to understand the true nature of these opposites. You have to understand the true nature of what is asubha, what is unpleasant, what is loathsome, what is disgusting. Because it happens all our life. And if we do not remember now, if we just reflect a little bit about it, that all our lives we have run away from all these unpleasant things. We have run away from unpleasant sights, we have run away from unpleasant feelings, we have run away from unpleasant views and opinions. And we have run after all these pleasant things. So now that we are coming to practice, we put a stop to it. And because we've run all our life after the pleasant things, now we are going to dig out all these unpleasant things that we have evaded all our life. And that takes a while. And the best object for this is, of course, the body. It's not only the body, but it's also painful feelings that arise during our sitting practice. So we can use both of these objects. Painful feelings that arise during our sitting meditation, especially if we sit for 2 or 3 hours in a row, without moving, without anything. Then painful feelings certainly will arise. And now we are going to use them for our investigation. What are painful feelings? We want to understand. We don't want to understand it in the Western sense, that this bone, hits this muscle or hits this nerve, and that's why painful feelings arise. That's not the way that we want to understand. What we want to understand is what is really going on in this body with painful feelings. Now, what is pain? That is the first question we have to ask. What is pain? Where is this pain? Is this pain in the muscles? Is this pain in the skin? Is this pain in the bones? Is this pain in the nerve? Or is pain and the nerves the same thing? Then when it's the same thing, why are the nerves not always in pain? So the nerves and the pain cannot be the same thing. So we have to really dissect everything that is coming in our way of investigation. We have to dissect and to understand, in order to understand what pain is. Is pain in the muscles? Then why are the muscles not always in pain? Does it stick into the muscles? Because when pain and the muscles are one and the same thing, the muscles should be always in pain. So we go away, or we cast away the view that we have of our Western autonomy, or our Western understanding of pain and painkillers. We want to understand what really is pain. Where does it come from? And what is it? Is it spot-like? Is it moving? Is it changing? Does it hold for the law of anicca, that everything arises and ceases. So we go and look into this pain. We go and look into this pain with the interest to understand, not with the interest to get away from the pain. That we have done all our life. Now we are going to change our approach. Our approach is to understand. Our approach is to get down to the basic things that are happening within our body. And the basic things in our body that are happening are constant movement. So the body constantly moves. At least the elements move. The air moves. The blood moves. And so on, and so on, and so on. So we're going to see. We're going to see it for ourselves. And we're going to see it not with our outer eyes, but we're going to see it with our inner eyes. So where's this pain? Is it spot-like, or is it an area? Does it change over time? We are only interested in this pain until we can separate it, until we can separate this pain from the bones, or from the skin, or from the flesh, or from the muscles, or from the nerves. That it is not in the muscles, or not in the flesh, or not in the bones. But it's something separate. We want to see that. We want to understand. Until we come clear to the understanding that it has nothing to do with the body. That pain is not produced by the body, but it's produced by something else. And to get this understanding, once we get this understanding, then we know who is in charge of pain, who is in charge of unpleasant feelings. It does help. And once we battle painful feelings, there will be a time when the kilesas in our back of our head tell us, now when you're going to sit on, you will going to die. And then we have to take the chance. Let's die whatever can die, and let's see what is going to be left over. And once we get to that point, and once we have the determination to go through death, actually, because the kilesas suggest that this is death, then we will notice that the next moment, this pain completely vanishes. So it has, and with that comes the understanding, it has nothing to do with the body. It's all the work of the kilesa. It's all the work of avijja. That's going to, if you are not willing to do what the kilesas are doing, then I'm going to inflict pain on you. That's the way of how they suppress us. That's the way of how they order us around. So, we do this investigation to understand this. Don't think that you can do it the first time, or don't think that if you do it 10 times you will understand it. Maybe you have to do it 10 times, maybe you have to do it 100 times, maybe you have to do it 1,000 or 1,000,000 times. Until the heart, until the chitta understand what is really behind pain. And it's the same thing. It's the same kind of principle that lies behind every kind of investigation. Now when we investigate the body, when we investigate the hair, the outside of the body, or the outer parts of the body, or the inner parts of the body, we do it in the same way. We want to see. We want to understand what is skin, for instance. We close our eyes and concentrate ourselves on skin until we clearly see it. Then we zoom in and then see what skin is. We look it, we cut it up, we look it up. And it's not as it is, the pictures are not as in an anatomic atlas, because they are fresh. Once they come into our inner eyes, they are fresh. And with this freshness comes a sort of disgust, an unpleasant feeling. Now, if you cannot deal with these unpleasant feelings, if you cannot stay with it, then we are in trouble. Our investigation will finish. And we say, this is not the way. This is not the way, I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to practice to actually rise painful feelings or unpleasant feelings. I'm here, just for my own pleasure, just to get pleasant feelings, pleasant abidings. Like, for instance, the jhanas, they are pleasant abidings. Or the metta viharas, the four viharas of metta, karuna, equanimity, and so on. So I'm here for these. That means if we are really here for these pleasant abidings, for the pleasantness of calmness or peacefulness of heart, then we have not changed our way of understanding. We have not changed our way of life. The meditation is just something else, nothing else than just another drug. We are still running after the pleasant thing. It doesn't matter, if you take drugs. It doesn't matter, if you go skiing, or if you go sunbathing, or if you do this, or if you do that. You're always running after the pleasant feelings. So but that is not what practice is about. That is not what is going to lead us to Nibbana. Nibbana is leading to understand. It needs the understanding of opposites. It needs the understanding what is hell and what is heaven. What is pleasant and what is unpleasant. What is greed and what is hate. That is what it needs to understand in order to pass through to Nibbana. So if you don't get the understanding of what is unpleasant, if we are only here for pleasant feelings, then we are here in the wrong monastery. Because this monastery does not teach you to abide in nice, pleasant states of mind. It teaches you to understand the true nature of all things. And in order to understand the nature of all things, you have to go. You have to go through all the things that you are trying to escape. Now, it's a time when you come here. It's a time to reflect about your life and to reflect about all the things that you evaded. All the things you run away from. Now, deal with it. That is one step. It's one step leading in the right direction. One step of being able to deal with one's life. Not being always forced in a situation where one is in an unpleasant situation to run away. But be able to stay with the unpleasant feeling that arises, or with the unpleasant view that arises, or whatever. If you really want to understand, if you really want to go to Nibbana, then we really have to understand the opposites. And that is why asubha is such an important aspect in our practice. Now, if it would be the case that one of you always looked at the unpleasant things, always was seeking for the unpleasant things in his life, then of course asubha would not help. Then he would have to investigate subha, the pleasant feelings. But I doubt that there is anybody of you that is here that always looked and always searched out for the unpleasant feeling, who searched out for the depression, who searched out for all these disgusting sights, and so on, and so on. No. All of us, when we're sitting here, we always look for pleasant things. And now when we start meditation, we also look for these pleasant things. And that is not going to lead us out. It's not even going to lead us out of samsara vata, the endless circle of rebirth. It keeps us perfectly fine within samsara vata, because that's all what we are doing. That's what we are doing since we were born. Looking for the pleasant sensation, looking for the pleasant tastes, looking for the pleasant touches, looking for the pleasant thoughts, for the pleasant memories, and so on, and so on. Now we have to understand. In order to understand What is asubha? What is subha and what is asubha? We have to balance the scale of greed and hate. It's the same thing. It's the same principle. Hell and heaven, greed and hate, subha, asubha, it's the same principle. They are just opposites. Now, if you do not balance the scale, if the scale is way out of balance, how can you go through? Do you think that you can go to Nibbana just rising the scale of pleasant thing to the utmost sky? That's not going to work. If you want to understand, if you want to leave behind the opposites, if you want to leave behind duality, you have to understand duality. And in order to understand duality, you have to understand both aspects of duality. So you have to look at both sides of the coin. Is that clear? And one side of the coin we know perfectly well, because that's what we're chasing after all our life. That's the pleasant things. Now we have to turn over that coin and look at the tail. Look at the unpleasant things. Until both of the things, both of these principles are very clearly balanced. That means we have to learn to bring up unpleasant things. And especially in the beginning stages of our practice, we have to learn to stay with these unpleasant feelings that come along with it. If we do our super practice, if we go into the side, not just go inside of your stomach now. Not just go with your inner eyes in the stomach. And look at the food that you so delightfully put in this morning. Look in what kind of state it is now. Is that a pleasant sight? But that is the truth. That is the nature of things. And now look in 24 hours when it comes out. Look at the results of this process. Is that a pleasant sight? Is that a pleasant smell? Is that a pleasant touch? Look at it. Be able to stay with these unpleasant feelings that come through our investigation. And be sure that when you do the investigation of the body, be it the stomach, or be it the nerves, or be it the liver, or the kidneys, or the lungs, or whatever it is, or the outside, look at the skin, look at the skin, how disgusting it is. If you zoom in on the skin, there's nothing beautiful of it. There's nothing left, that is beautiful. It's just, lots of holes where grease and dirt comes out. Huh? What's so beautiful about the skin? But it's the number one deceiver. It's the number one deceiver. When we look at other people, we see them through their skin. Or we actually see them as skin. Skin with hairs. And nails and teeth. A smile, what is it? Just look at the teeth itself. What's a smile? But we are so thrilled by these outside appearance. That's why we go for it. Once we take off the skin of another person, that person becomes completely disinterested. Actually, we don't want even to look at it. Now pull the skin off yourself. And look then in the mirror, and then you see the bloody flesh and the nerves and the muscles and whatever. What is under there? Do you admire yourself in the mirror? Just ask yourself these things. Do you really admire the picture that you see in the mirror? Do you really love yourself? But the moment you put on the skin, oh well, that's where I am back. Wonderful, that's nice. That's fashionable. My hairstyle is fashionable. Or this is fashionable, or that is fashionable. Or this is attractive, or that is not so attractive. If it's not so attractive, you try to hide it. Women try to hide it by putting up makeup. Making up for what? Men also do hiding. So there's no difference. So the skin is the number one deceiver. If we pull off the skin of all the people we see, there is no interest in the other sex. No interest at all. You don't want to. You don't even want to touch this bloody mess, do you? And all our sense desires for the other person, extinguishes in that moment. The moment we turn, we put on the skin again, then our interest arises again. So actually, we are interested only on this bag of skin. What is within this bag of skin, we are not really interested. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see all these organs. We don't want to see this shit. It is just like an example. If you have a nice pillow that is very comfortable, where you can put your head in, and it's nice, and it even has a warm radiance. And then one day you become curious what is in, what makes this pillow so beautiful or so comfortable. Then you cut it open and you see it's full of warm shit. Even if you close it, you will never put your head back on this pillow. You will throw it into the garbage bin. And it's the same thing. The same thing will happen if our investigation with the body gets through. If we come to the same understanding as with this pillow, with our body, then it's the last time that we have a body like this. And that is the idea of the whole subject. We want to become disillusioned about this bag of skin that is full of shit. So let's open it up and see it with our own inner eyes. And remember, when you do this kind of investigation, do remember, if there are not unpleasant feelings, any kind of unpleasant feelings will do. Unpleasant feelings or loathsome feelings or even feelings of anger turning up, then you're not doing the investigation properly. Then you're just playing around. Look with your attention. Look with your inner eyes. So select the point of focus to one of the organs, whatever interests you most, be it the skin or be it the hair of the head. Look where it is coming up. Concentrate it on this one object, and on this one object you will stay for the next 2 or 3 hours, until you become a picture or until you can dissect it. And then do whatever you're interested in. Cut it up to see what it is like, what it is made of, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you do that. You do that 1 week, you do that 1 month, you do that 1 year, or you do that 10 years, until you get the understanding that the body is really something loathsome, something disgusting, something that is not really to our liking, something that is a burden on us, something that we don't want. But that doesn't mean, if you don't want this body, that does not mean that you're not going to have another body. You just want a different body. You want a younger body when you're getting older. Or you want to have a healthier body. Or you want to be taller. Or you want to have blonde hairs or whatever. Or blue eyes. I don't know what you want. It's all the outside. It's all the outside that interests us. It's the understanding of the inside. It's the understanding, what is in there. What is in this bag of skin. Well, just do it. So this principle, or this kind of investigation of the body, is the main topic for the next 7 or 10 years, until we really understand it. Maybe it's not only 10 years, maybe it's 20 or 30 years, or maybe it's 4 or 5 or 6 lifetimes. This is the only topic of investigation. Painful feelings in the body. You investigate it and investigate it until you understand the principle of subha and asubha. Understand the principle of greed and hate. because they are rooted within this body. They are just synonyms for Supa and Asupa. Just the same principle. So we have to understand the principle. Once we understand the principle, that's the end of the body, and that is our stage of anagami. A person who will never return. Anagami is the third stage of enlightenment. And he will not, neither will he reborn in heaven, nor on a human scale, nor in hell. He will not have a body again. Because he has so understood, or he has completely understood the nature of the body, and has completely understood the loathsomeness and the burdensomeness of this body. That he doesn't even want a fine material body or a heavy material body like ours. So what is necessary is to understand this principle of asubha and supa. Is to balance the scale. That means for the next years, let's bring up all these unpleasant feelings, all these unpleasant memories, and all these unpleasant thoughts that we had and that we evaded before. In order to deal with them, in order to see their origin, in order to understand where they are coming from. That's what we need to understand. Now, once we get better at our investigation, once we can project, or once we can create feelings of disgust randomly, then it's a time actually to switch to supa investigation. Then we will be able to see supa and investigate supa, and not being carried away by supa, by the pleasant feelings. So we investigate the pleasant feelings the same way that we investigate the unpleasant feelings. And the principle of anicca, anatta, and dukkha, or where are they coming from? What is their origin? Now, before we come finally to the stage of the last battle of asubha and supa, we have to create these objects. So we create an object, for instance, we create an object of supa. That means a pleasant feeling. And the next moment we destroy it with an object of asubha. And we see. And the mind sees, and the chitta sees and understands. It understands the creation and destruction of supa and asubha. And it's the first time we are actually in control of these feelings. At any time we can create pleasant feelings, at any time we can create unpleasant feelings. And we can destroy pleasant feelings with unpleasant feelings, and destroy unpleasant feelings with pleasant feelings. That's the time of the high battle. In order for the chitta to understand the principle of supa and asubha. And once it understands the principle of supa and asubha, just by playing these things, by creating these unpleasant feelings or destroying these unpleasant feelings with pleasant feelings, and vice versa, the chitta will sooner or later understand and will be able to walk through the gate. Through the gate, when you look at a scale, it has a point where both of the sides are balanced. Once it can go through that, that's the end of supa and asubha. There's no more to come. And that is the end of rebirth. At least rebirth in the human realm, or in the heavenly realm, or in the lower realm. That's the stage of anagami. Now the work of the anagami are the four mental khandhas, are the four mental groups, and that are mental feelings, thoughts, and memories, and consciousness. So he still has a lot of work to do. So greed and hate is gone, he still has to battle delusion. And that is not an easy battle, because that battle of delusion takes place between Sanya and Sankara. And they're extremely fast. As long as we have greed and hate, we don't even need to bother to investigate the mental context, because we will never ever understand it. Because greed and hate, the body, is so strong. It obstructs our proper view of delusion. So greed and hate first have to fall before we can actually see the next army of the killers, that is delusion, that is behind greed and hate. And once delusion drops, then we still have to battle avijja, the master of all three armies. And once we battle avijja, that's the end of our practice. And with this, I also end my talk.